Okay, everyone, it is 7 o'clock, so we are going to go ahead and get started. I just started recording this session, and we'll talk about where that will be available to you later after this webinar is over. So welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining me tonight with tools for blended learning in the classroom. Just an FYI, you all are automatically muted and your cameras are turned off so nobody can hear you or see you. You should just be able to hear me speaking, and that's all. So tools for blended learning in the classroom. This is technically a follow-up webinar to a webinar that we did a few weeks ago. However, if you were not at that other webinar, if this is your first one, no worries. You do not need to attend that first webinar to be able to join us and learn with us here in this webinar. But the webinar that took place a few weeks ago was blended learning in the secondary classroom. And we had two secondary teachers from Virginia Beach City Public Schools sharing some of their methods and techniques that they use in their blended classrooms, both face-to-face and digital classrooms. And they mentioned a lot of really great tech tools that they use to promote learning. And that's what this webinar is tonight. I'm going to very briefly recap what they said about blended learning, but I'm mainly going to focus on 6 different digital tools that you can use in your classroom. And I'm going to provide you with some brief tutorials on how to use those tools and what they might be useful for you in your classroom with your students. So this webinar tonight is hosted by WHRO Public Media. We're located in Norfolk, and we are actually owned by 21 owner school divisions. And we are able to provide webinars and sometimes in-person professional development as well. And we take a lot of requests. So if you ever have a request for professional development in the future, feel free to reach out to us and me specifically. And all of these webinars that we provide for our owner divisions are free. So this is me. My name is Janie Everett. I'm the Educational Technology Manager at WHRO. And like I kind of mentioned on the last slide, that just means that I provide professional development for school divisions in Virginia. So once again, if you ever have any requests, feel free to reach out to me. My email's on this slide. Before working for WHRO, I was an elementary school teacher. I taught first grade, second grade, fifth grade in Virginia, as well as a couple of other states as well. After that, I became a technology specialist at Virginia Beach City Public Schools. And from there, I moved on over to my position at WHRO. So if you have any questions tonight, as we're moving along through this webinar, you can type those in the Q&A section right here in Zoom. And I'm not going to stop during the webinar to address those. However, I will either leave some time at the end of the webinar or I'll stick around afterwards to answer some of those questions that are there. So you can type them in the Q&A as I'm speaking and I'll get to them later, or you can just hold off and type them in the Q&A at the end while I'm answering questions. And if you prefer, you could also email me after this webinar is finished and I will gladly help you out then as well. After this webinar, sometime within the next few days, probably by Friday of this week, you will be receiving an email from me. You will receive a certificate of attendance for this webinar tonight for 1 hour of professional development and blended learning. You're also going to see a link to a survey in that email. So we would appreciate if you would take just a few minutes to fill out a very, very brief survey just to let us know how we did and also to let us know what you'd like to see from us in future webinars and professional developments. I will also include the link to my presentation for tonight so that you can have a copy of that. I will give you information on where you can find this recording posted online. And I'll also be sending some information to you about some upcoming webinars that we have taking place over the next couple of weeks. All right, so now to dive in. The title tonight has blended learning in it, but I kind of wanted to clarify the difference between blended learning and some of these other models that we see as well. And I also want to assure you that if you realize that you're not using solely blended learning in your classroom, that's fine, because the tools that we go over tonight really are useful for any style of teaching and learning that you're using, if you're using technology in your classroom, which I'm sure we all are. So blended learning is face-to-face that has some online components. Those online pieces are not intended to replace that face-to-face instruction, but rather just enhance it. There's also flipped classrooms. Here, the students are learning the bulk of their material from those online resources. And then when they work face-to-face with the teacher, they're doing that to fine-tune those skills that they learned from the online resources. There's a hybrid classroom, which is face-to-face with online components. It's similar to blended learning, but unlike blended learning, those online pieces are actually intended to replace some of that face-to-face instruction. There's virtual learning, which is complete online instruction. It could be synchronous, could be asynchronous. And then concurrent is when the instructor teaches face-to-face and virtual students together at the same time. And I'm sure tonight we have a broad range of educators here who are using different methods seen on the screen right now, and possibly even several at once. But again, whichever you're using is fine for tonight. These tools will benefit you no matter what you're doing. So a quick recap from the last webinar we did, where we had our secondary teachers giving some tips for blended learning with students. Some of the main points that I gathered from their presentation was to post your schedule so that both you and your students have access to it at all times. Plan out your week. They said that lesson planning is more important now than it ever has been. Have clear expectations of your students and let your students know of those expectations. Be available for your students digitally, just like you would in the face-to-face classroom. Always expect things to go wrong when you're using technology, because we know that happens all the time. And don't let it get you down. Roll with it and recover from it as quickly as you can, and just move on with your day. And last but not least, choose helpful resources, and hopefully I'm going to help you with that tonight. All right, another thing I would like to mention is the term learning management system. You may hear me talk about learning management systems tonight, or you may even hear me abbreviate that to the term LMS. So if you hear me say LMS, that's what I'm talking about. Learning management systems are one common place where teachers tend to put all of their assignments and materials for their students so that they don't have to go, hunting all over the internet for their assignments and whatnot. Some of the more popular ones are listed on the screen: Google Classroom, Schoology, Canvas, Moodle, Desire to Learn, Microsoft, Blackboard. There are more, but these are probably the most common ones. And all the tools that we talk about tonight work really well with most learning management systems. So even if you use these tools that I show you tonight, your students still won't have to be hunting all over the internet for things. They can still go right to their learning management system and use these tools. So tonight, here are the actual tools that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about EdPuzzle, Quizizz, Google Jamboard, Remind, WordWall, which is actually a new one that I threw in just yesterday, actually, that I didn't know I was going to cover. And then at the end, I'm very briefly going to talk about eMedia VA and where you can get some more information on eMedia VA. And the best part about all these tools I talk about tonight is that they are free or they have really great free versions. Lots of teachers are using them. I have used them all with students as well. You are not going to have to pay for any of these tools unless you want to pay for some extended features. All right. So on that note, we're going to go ahead and get started with our first tool, which is WordWall. So WordWall, this is the new one that a teacher actually just emailed me about 2 days ago and said, hey, have you heard of WordWall? I just started using it with my students and it's really great. So I said, no, I'll check it out. And I went online yesterday and I checked out WordWall and I said, hey, that is really great. I think I'll throw it in this presentation. So I'm not sure how many of you have heard of this one, but it really is a great new tool that you should try out if you get a chance. It's really easy to use. You access this site at wordwall.net and it has a Google login, which makes life a million times easier. It has a whole bunch of different game type templates. It's meant to kind of gamify your classroom in a really simple way. You enter your content and then you can either like print out these activity sheets or you can let your students play directly on the screen. I know printing out activity sheets does sound kind of archaic almost in this day and age. However, some of us have students who are learning from home, but also don't have access to internet. So anytime a tool like this also provides an at-home version of the work is great. All right. So when you go to wordwall.net and you create your account or you sign up with Google, it's very easy to create a new activity and there are tons to choose from. So this is what your screen will look like. I just took screenshots of my screen to put into this slideshow. So this is exactly what it would look like for you as well. So at the top, you would just click on this blue button that says create activity. And here are all of the different digital options that you have in WordWall to create study sets or games for your students. There are a ton of them. Because I stumbled upon this 2 days ago, I haven't even had the chance to look through all of them, but the ones I have clicked on and tried out have been really, really great. And then if you scroll down the screen a bit, you also can see the printable activities that are in here as well. Equally, a lot of them, and a lot of them are the same as those digital activities that we saw on the last screen. So for tonight's purposes, I chose the digital version of Whack-A-Mole because that seemed like a really fun title. So I clicked on Whack-A-Mole, the digital version, and here's what my screen looked like next. You give your activity a title and you can type in your instructions here. And then this is where you put your content down here. So I decided to go with simple machines. And basically the kids with the animals, the moles pop up out of the ground, they're going to have to hit the correct types of simple machines, just like my instructions say. So here over on the correct side, I listed all these different simple machines. And on the incorrect side, I listed some words that are not actual simple machines. And then I clicked done. And you could have more than 5. I only put 5 in there, but I think it said you could have up to like 20 or something like that. And then the next screen gives you some more options. You can set a timer for the game, let kids do multiple levels or just single level, how fast you want the moles to pop up out of the ground, and a few other options as well. So once I was finished with all of my settings, here's my game. And you could click start to see what it looks like before you actually assign it to your students. Before I show you what it looks like, I'm going to show you how to share it with them. So that's right down here in the bottom corner where we see the share button. And when you click on that share button, you have 2 options. You can make it public on the WordWall website to share it with other educators. That's up to you if you want to do that or not. To share it with your students, you're going to set assignment. And then we have a couple more options here to set up the assignment. These are all personal preference, of course, and we'll click start. All done, we're ready to go. We have a couple of different options here. You can grab that link, you can click copy and paste it right into your LMS, your learning management system, or you could email it to your students. They have a Google Classroom embed option right here. It looks like this is an embed code, so you might be able to embed it into a page in Schoology or Canvas so that your kids don't even have to leave the LMS at all. Lots of options. So now let's see what this game that we put together actually looks like on the student side. This was me playing as a student in a different browser tab, and I did a screencast so that you could see exactly what the game looked like for me. So then this would keep going and going because I had it set to multiple levels. So the students were going to be able to play up to 10 levels if they were doing well. The timer was running up in the top left corner. So if they didn't fill all of those stars quickly enough, their time would have ran out and their game would have been finished. All right, so that's what the game looked like for students. Back to my teacher dashboard, what I'm looking at right here. Um, Here's the game I just created. And there's also a place where you can see some results or reports for the games that have been played that you've created for your students. So if you click on my results, here are some of the things that you get. Um, Nothing groundbreaking, but there is some useful information here so that you can see which students were playing the game and kind of generally how well they did or if they were struggling. Here's some summary information about the game overall. If you scroll down a bit, there's a leaderboard. You can see who did well on which questions and then how each individual student did on the game as well. And then back on your teacher dashboard, up here at the top, if you click on the tab that says community, this website has a whole bunch of games in here that have already been made by other teachers. So we saw that option earlier where if you want to, you can choose to share your games with other educators on the site. You don't have to. Plenty of others have shared their games with you though, and their activities. If you want to go in and use theirs, you can also choose some of theirs and edit them if they're just a little slightly off and if you need to change them for your students at all. So looking around the plans on this site, like I said, it does have an absolutely free version, which is what we were just doing. I haven't paid for this site at all. It is limited to 5 games. And I did find though that if you delete your games after you're finished with them, you you do get that 5 back. So if you created 3 games and only had 2 left, but then you deleted all the ones you already made, you'd be back up to 5. So, 5 isn't the highest number, but you can keep recycling those games. And then if you did want to consider paying for it, it's not too bad of a price if that's something that you were willing to do. And here are a couple of additional resources for WordWall. Like I said earlier, I'm going to make sure I send out my presentation to you in an email sometime in the next few days. So these are just helpful videos and sites that just help give you some more tutorials and help on using the WordWall site. These three computer screens are all links. So once you have the presentation, if you click on them, they'll take you out to the helpful website that is shown on the screen. Okay. And we are going to move right along and head on over to EdPuzzle. EdPuzzle, so actually tonight I wanted to talk about Play Pause It, because in our webinar a few weeks ago, our secondary teachers mentioned that they use Play Pause It. I also have used Play Pause It before in the past. It's a really wonderful tool, but as I was playing around with it, I realized that it really did not have a great free version. And I felt like EdPuzzle is a similar tool and has a much better free version for educators to use. So I decided to go with EdPuzzle because they're very, very similar. So EdPuzzle lets you create videos or take videos that other people have made and posted on YouTube or other locations. And not only do you get to show your students those videos, but you can control those videos by pausing them and having students answer questions in the middle of the video. So we're going to go ahead and get started on this quick tutorial. You access this at edpuzzle.com, and there's also a Google login for this site as well. I love when there's a Google login. It makes my life 100 times easier. So EdPuzzle, I believe, is the only tool tonight that is going to require you to create a classroom within the website. However, I assure you that it's super easy. I was able to do it very quickly, just to create a sample classroom. When you're in EdPuzzle on your dashboard, which is what's up on my screen right now, you see my classes on the left side. You click the plus sign, you create one. You just have to put in some basic information like the grade level and the name of the classroom. I titled mine Sample Classroom. And then once you've created your classroom, that takes like literally 30 seconds. You'll go to My Classes, click on your sample class or whatever you name yours, and then you want to get some students in there. So I'm going to click on Invite Students. And it's as simple as that. You just have to share this code with your students. And when they go to edpuzzle.com, they just have to type in this classroom code and boom, they're part of your classroom. Or you could copy a link, throw it in your LMS, and your students can join that way. Or you could send it to them through email. Very easy to create your class and get all of your students to join. It's pretty hassle-free. All right. So once you get your classroom set up, you've got all of your students added. Here's what your dashboard looks like. Here's a video that I made in the past. It was a video of someone reading the book Jumanji. And I'm going to show you how to create a new video. If you click on Add Content up here, this blue button, you can upload a video that you have saved to your device, or you can even create a video. It'll use your webcam and it will record, you and your face talking. So you can use either of those options. What I tend to use as a super, super busy teacher who doesn't have time to make her own videos is this section over here on the left. You can grab videos that have already been made and posted by YouTube, Khan Academy, Nat Geo, any of these, and just use those for your students. 99% of the time, that is what I do. I just want to grab, excuse me, I just want to grab a Khan Academy video that's already been made and throw my questions into there. So I typically come right over here, click on Khan Academy or YouTube or whatever. So I clicked on Khan Academy and all of the Khan Academy videos in history pop up here for me to scroll through and choose from. If I know I'm looking for a specific topic, I can use the search bar at the top. I typed in adding decimals, and I found a Khan Academy video on adding decimals that I wanted my students to view. I clicked on it, and here it is. It pops right up. So this is definitely the video I want my students to watch. I can click play and I can watch it if I want to make sure that it's the right video. And once I'm sure it's the one I want, I'm going to come over here and click on edit to start adding my questions to the middle of the video. The first option we have is cut. So this video is, I think it was like 2 minutes, 11 seconds. If I wanted to cut that down to half the time, because I only wanted my students to see the first 45 seconds of this video, I can just trim it right down here to 45 seconds, add the cut, and they're only going to see the section that I chose for them. The next option up here at the top is voiceover. You'll find that for Khan and YouTube, it doesn't let you do voiceover. I think it's like a whole copyright situation, but I do know if you upload or create your own video, voiceover is an option where you can record your voice along with the video that's playing. All right, my favorite part, questions. You can stop the video halfway through and add either multiple choice or open-ended questions, or you can just type in a note that you want your students to see. So I'm going to show you what it looks like to create these, and then of course what it looks like on the student side as well. So at 11 seconds, I wanted this video to stop, and I wanted my students to try to solve this problem that's on the screen. So I said open-ended question, and I typed in what is the answer to the addition problem on the screen, and then I clicked save. The video plays on for a little bit, and then here at 31 seconds, right here, I want to stop the video again and ask my students another question. What is the issue with the way the problem is currently lined up? And this is a multiple choice question, so I have two options here, and I marked this one as correct, and this one is incorrect. And then I clicked save. I only chose to put two questions in this video. You can put as many as you would like in here. You could stop the video every 3 seconds to ask a question if you want to. I only did two for tonight, and then I clicked finish. Now that my video is all ready to go, I'm going to click assign. And it gives you some options. You can assign to all of your students. You can assign to just some of them. And you can do the due date. You can prevent your students from skipping ahead in the video so they can't scroll through. And you can turn on captions if you would like to as well. Now I want to get this assignment out to my students because, like I said, as a teacher, I don't want my students running all over the internet to find their assignments for the day. I just want them to look in their learning management system to find all their assignments. And that's very easy with EdPuzzle. You just click on share assignment over here. There's the link to your assignment. You can copy it, throw it in your LMS, or here's an embed code. You could also, depending on your LMS, you could embed that right into Schoology or whatever you've got going on. All right, so let's take a look at what this looks like from the student's view. This is what a student sees when they're watching one of your EdPuzzle videos.
Let's see if we can add 9.087 to 15.31. And I encourage you to pause the video and try to do it on your own.
The video stopped, and here's my open-ended question. And the student is now about to answer the question. The video will not move on until the student answers the question. And the student is getting the question wrong, but I'll be able to see that later. And that noise was my dog growling. I'm so sorry.
So I'm assuming you have tried to do it on your own, and now let's see how we could actually tackle this. Now, one thing I want to point out, some of you all might see these numbers all lined up and immediately want to say, hey, 7 plus 1 is 8, and 8 plus 3 is 11, carry the 1, et cetera, et cetera. And if you did that, you would be making a mistake because you...
All right, video stopped again. My second question popped up. Student picked the correct answer. Got it correct.
Because you see right over here, these decimals aren't lined up. Here.
And now the rest of the video is going to play. If I had more questions in there, it would stop every time there was a question, but I only included two. All right. So as I said, EdPuzzle does have some basic reports so that you can see how your students have done on the videos and the questions that you've posted. It's pretty basic, but it gives you just enough information to informally assess your students and see if they're doing well or if there are some topics that they are going to need some additional help on later because they didn't do so well. So you can see how much time they've spent on the video. Here are all the students. And by the way, these are just made up names. This is not a real grade report. All this information is just completely made up. And here are the videos at the top, and you can see how the students did on those questions that you put in the videos. So Khan Academy, just like most other tools, has a whole bunch of videos in here that other teachers have created already that you can use so that you don't have to make up your own. So back when we were doing the search, we were initially looking for a video. I clicked Khan Academy, here are all the videos. When I clicked on the video I wanted, which was the adding decimals, I scrolled down below the video and all these names that you see down here are names of other teachers who have made their videos public for other educators to use as well. So the only way to check them out is to click on them, click on these teachers' names and go in and see what they did. But they may have made a video with some really helpful questions that you would find helpful for your students as well. So it's up to you whether you want to create your own video questions from scratch or if you want to go ahead and try to find something that somebody else has already done. Again, there is a completely free version of EdPuzzle. It allows you 20 videos, which is a pretty decent amount. And just like I mentioned with WordWall, if you use up your 20 videos, you could always delete them if you wanted to free up some space and create more new videos. And here's what the pricing looks like if that's something that you wanted to consider paying for. Here are some additional EdPuzzle resources. Remember, these are all links to tutorials and other sites. So once you have this, you can click on those for more information if you need some more info. Okay, moving right along. Quizizz. You've probably heard of Quizizz, and if you haven't, you should definitely jump on board. When I was a teacher in the classroom, I can tell you that Quizizz was the absolute all-time #1 favorite of all of my students. Like my fifth graders absolutely loved it. And then when I became a technology specialist, I was like, oh, I don't know if the little kids will love this as much, but that's not true. They did. Our secondary teachers confirmed that older students love it. Quizizz is just an overall win. Honestly, I think the students like it because it's just kind of a cool website. It has a cool layout for the students. It tries to relate with them a little bit. And you'll see what I mean by that, but love, love, love Quizizz. So you get to Quizizz by going to quizizz.com. And once again, Google login. I love that. Quizizz is exactly what it sounds like. It's a website where you can make really fast, fun, easy quizzes for your students. I have used Quizizz mostly informally to informally assess my students. I've used it quite a bit to make reviews for my students for SOLs or other big tests that we've had coming up. And I've also used it a couple of times for formal assessments as well. So it's quite versatile. All right, so you're going to go to Quizizz and use that Google login. Love that. That's great. If you want to create a classroom right within Quizizz, you absolutely can. You can create one or you can connect to Google Classroom. I never actually did that. You don't have to create a classroom in here to use this with your students, but you certainly can if you want to. So from your dashboard, and you'll notice I don't have a class created. That's just my personal preference. To create a new quiz, you'll click on Create, purple button over here on the left, and you'll click on Quiz. Lesson is a newer option that we'll look at briefly, but we're mostly going to focus on creating a quiz in here. You give your quiz a title, and then you choose which subject your quiz is related to, and you can choose more than one if you want. And there are essentially 5 different types of questions that you can add to your quiz: multiple choice, checkbox, fill in the blank, poll, and open-ended. I know there's one that says slide, but that's actually just going to create a lesson rather than a quiz question. So these are the 5 types of questions that you can add to your quizzes. And we're going to take a look at what each of those look like from teacher view and from student view. The first one is a multiple choice. I think I went with text structure for the theme of this quiz when I was creating it. So here's what it looked like as I was putting together my multiple choice question. You can have as many options as you want. This is the correct one. And also, if you notice, you can add to your question, you can add audio, so you can have your voice reading the question aloud to your students. You could have video if you really want your face in there too. Math expressions, and you can also add images as well. Images are really great for like, I don't know, like if you're labeling some sort of diagram, like cell parts in science or something like that. That's really great. And then you can choose how long the students have to answer the question. It goes from like 15 seconds all the way up to 3 minutes. And then you save your question. This is what a checkbox question looks like. Very similar to a multiple choice, except the students can click all of the correct answers that apply. Same features and options as the multiple choice question. You can choose the time. I made it a little bit longer since there's more than one correct answer, and then click save. This is what a fill in the blank question looks like. Blank in effect is when the text explains why something happens. You still have the same options for pictures, audio, video, expressions. The correct answer is cause and effect. You're able to put in several different correct options. As an elementary teacher, I thought of a couple ways that my students might type the word cause, hoping that they're still going to get this question correct if they type in COZ or CAUS. I didn't want them to get this question wrong just because of a spelling error. So hopefully those cover any spelling errors that they might make in the word cause. Save. This is a poll question. As you can see, a poll question is not graded. It's just meant for you to gather some information from your students. So I asked which text structure confuses you the most, because that's almost as important as knowing which questions they're doing well on. If, myself as a student, I had a horrible time with cause and effect, and I still do as an adult sometimes. It's just confusing. So this will kind of let me know which of my students are still struggling with some of these. And I actually probably should have put another option too that says none of them, I know them all, but maybe that's not a good idea. I don't know. Anyway, just to gather a little bit of data from your students that isn't necessarily connected to points. And I made this one a little bit longer so that they could think about it. And the last type of question is an open-ended question. Just like the poll, this one is ungraded because there's no way for the Quizizz website to grade a paragraph. It's just kind of to gather some information about your students informally so that you can assess them. So I said to my students, today we read this article. How do you know it was a description text? And then my students will have to type in a sentence or a paragraph explaining how they know the article from our lesson was a description text. I gave them 3 minutes for this one because they're typing in this one rather than selecting an answer. Okay, So I finished all 5 of my sample questions and they show up here. So I can click them and drag them and reorder them if I want them in a different order, or um, duplicate them, trash them, edit them, whatever I need to do. And when I feel like it's finished, I can come up here and click publish. It'll ask for a few more details about your quiz. You can add an overall photo if you want to, select the grade level and decide who you want to see this quiz and click save. All right, so now we've got to get this quiz out to our students. You have 2 options. They're right here in purple. You can start a live quiz, and that means that you're starting the quiz and all of the students in your class are doing the quiz at the same time. They have to be doing it all together at the same time. They don't necessarily have to be in person in your classroom. They can still be at home, but all the kids are doing this together. Or you can choose assign homework, which is asynchronous learning, which means the student can complete the quiz whenever they want to. It doesn't have to be at the same time as all of the other students. This is usually the option that I do, is the assign homework one. Usually I have kids taking these quizzes at all sorts of different times, depending on what their learning schedule looks like. So I clicked on assign homework. And then Quizizz, it looks like a lot. I know these settings are like, whoa, there's a ton of them, but I love the Quizizz settings. They're very detailed and I change them all the time. So you can choose a deadline if you want to, or you can just choose no deadline and it will be open for the next couple of months. You can decide if your kids can only play this quiz one time or if they can do it 7 times in a row if they want to. You can decide if the kids see the correct answers right after they answer the question or at the end of the quiz, or neither. You can do power-ups if you want to, which are fun little additives to the game. You can set a timer, and if you want to, you can make it so that the timer is not visible, because I know the timer can stress students out sometimes, so you can hide that if you would like. And all these other options like a leaderboard, shuffle questions, shuffle answers. Do you want to give them redemption questions? Should it have music? Should it have memes? And let me tell you, this last one, it sounds silly. Give the kids the memes. Like they love it. And I promise you they're appropriate. I've used this website for years and I've never come across an inappropriate meme in here. They're usually just like, congratulations or whatever. Okay. So once your settings are all ready to go, you get your quiz out to your students and you can put it right in your Google Classroom. You can grab the link, put it in your LMS, or you can tell your kids, hey, go to joinmyquiz.com and type in this code, whichever is easiest for you and your students. Let's take a look at what this Quizizz looks like from the student side. There's no sound on this video, by the way. My dog was full on barking at this point. Okay, so here's the fill the blank one they had to do. There's one of the memes. They're always just cute like that. I think this was the multiple choice. Oh, this was the open-ended question. Also take notice in the top right corner of the screen, there's a little ribbon that says first place, because I was the only person taking the quiz. If you choose to have the leaderboard on, they can see if they're in like 3rd place or 8th place or whatever. So it's up to you if you want to put that on or not. They like the competition, but you know, it just kind of depends on the nature of the quiz that you're giving. This is the check all that apply. You can see I missed one and it told me I missed one. And this is the last one, the poll. So they can choose more than one answer and it's not graded. It's just going to tell me what my student is struggling with. Oh, and here's a redemption question. So that one I had gotten wrong, it's going to give me again. And remember, you can turn the redemption questions on or off in your settings. And I got it right that time. All right, and I was the only person taking that quiz, but there would be a big leaderboard here at the end if I had that option on, so that students could see where they ranked amongst other students. Okay. So we're really not going to dive into Quizizz lessons. It is a newer feature, but I figured I would at least show you what it looks like. Here's what it looks like when you're creating a lesson in Quizizz. It reminds me very much of Nearpod, where you just kind of create these slides that already have some fun templates in here for you. And you can add your own text, add your own pictures, and you can also add Quizizz style questions like we saw in the actual quiz to these slides as well. So these lessons are really great to use with kids, and then you would share them the same way as you do the quiz. You could put them right into your learning management system if you wanted to, or give them a code. Oh, and just like Nearpod, it looks like you can do a teacher-paced lesson where you're guiding the lesson and changing the slide for the students, or you can do student-paced where you basically just give the slideshow out to the students and they view it at their own pace and their own time. And Quizizz also has tons and tons and tons of quizzes that other educators have made. They're all organized by subject. I have found a lot of really, really great quizzes that other teachers have created that I have used. You also have the ability to go in and pull out individual questions if you like one or two questions out of a quiz that another educator made. And then you can put those in like a library and add them to your own quiz for your own students. Here are some additional Quizizz resources that you can click on and check out later once you get the link to my slideshow. All right. Moving on to Remind. I apologize now if you hear me say Remind 101, because way back in the day, it used to be called Remind 101. And for some reason, that has just never, ever left my vocabulary. So I'm going to try to say Remind, but 101 might slip out. Remind is a website, and also for this one, I highly recommend having the app as well that lets you text your students or the parents of your students without having to share phone numbers at all, ever. It is wonderful. You access it at remind.com. I do recommend going to remind.com to get everything set up. And then once you've got your classroom set up and whatnot, then download the app on your cell phone. That makes it much easier. And as always, we've got the good old Google login for Remind, which I love. All right, so let's see how Remind works. Remind, of course, is primarily for communicating with a group of people. So before I even get started with this slide, actually, I'll say, being an elementary teacher, I, of course, did not want to have anything to do with texting my students. So I did not use this with students. I used it with parents. So at the beginning of the year, I set up Remind with the parents of all of my students, and I used it to send out announcements and reminders to all of the parents of all of my kids in class. And the reminders would come to them directly as text messages. Secondary teachers are probably using this directly with students, which is completely fine. Very easy to set up with your students as well. And the last school I worked in, my principal used this to communicate with her teachers. So she set up a Remind classroom that had her entire staff in it. And then if there was something really important going on that she needed to let us know about right away, she would send out a remind message rather than an email, because the important message would come right to us as a text. So there are a lot of different ways that you can utilize this. I know a lot of coaches use it as well with their teams and clubs at school. All right, so when you are on remind.com, this is what your dashboard looks like. You'll have this gray toolbar on the left side, and you'll want to create a new class. Again, it's super easy. You have to create a class to be able to message your students. You give your class a name. I named mine 9 a.m. math. You can try to change the code, and as long as it's something that's available, it'll let you change it. And if you want to, you can choose the school that you teach at as well. And of course, you have to vow that you will only message people who are 13 or older. Again, if you teach younger students, you can use this with their parents and create. Once you have created your class, you want to go to the People tab and add some people to it. Right here, big blue button, add people. There are 4 different ways you can add people to your class, which I like. It gives us options, and I like options. The first one is phone or email contacts. You can individually type in all of your students if you want to. You can type in their name, their phone number, whatever, their parents' names and phone numbers, whatever you want to do. I did that. I added myself as a student, and here's what that looked like on my cell phone. I immediately got a text that said where this is coming from. I'm using Remind to send you updates, reply now. Here's the class it's for, reply no if you don't want to. I replied yes, and then I got this text. You've joined 9 a.m. math. Reply to send a message to Mrs. Everett. And just like it says, the students can type in a message directly into their text app, and it will come right to you. It's truly like you're texting back and forth, but neither of you have each other's phone numbers. They can reply no and delete you anytime they want, or you can delete them out of your class anytime you want, no commitments with phone numbers. Another way to get people to join is by printing PDFs. I used to do this for my elementary students, and I would send these home in their backpacks to get their parents to join. If you have like a back to school night or orientation, or even on the first day of school, you can project this scene up on your board. Students can text this code to this number and they're joined. Simple as that. You also have the option of sharing a link. You can put that link in the learning management system, or you can send everyone an email. Then you'll want to, after you get people in your classroom, you'll want to change some of your settings. And these are all personal preference as well. It just, do you want to have to require approval before people can join? Do you want them to be able to text each other or just you? Things like that. And you can also add another class owner. So if you're a co-teacher or something like that, you can add another teacher. And then you can start sending messages with the messages tab up here. You just click on new announcement, type in whatever you want to say to your students. I, of course, made a spelling error. It's supposed to say I'm extending the geometry assignment to Friday. You have some options down here. You can add attachments, you can add a link, and you can also set a schedule. So if you want this message to go out Wednesday night at 7 p.m., but on Wednesday night, you're going to be at aerobics class and you're going to forget, you can set a schedule for this text to go out at that time. And there it is. It's sent to all of my students. And if we click on this little arrow right here, it's going to show us how many people read it, how many people received it, and if there were any delivery errors. And then look, one of my students texted me back and I got that message. So I can individually text this student if I want to, or go back up to 9 a.m. math and text them all at the same time. And here are some remind resources for you to check out on your own time. All right, I've got a couple minutes left and I have one more tool that I want to show you, and that is Google Jamboard. This is a Google feature, so of course there is a Google login, and the best way to describe Google Jamboard is basically a digital whiteboard. So like the big whiteboard that you have in your classroom on the wall, except digital, and can do 1,000 more things that your dry erase board cannot do. And I'm going to show you those things. All right, so you just have to open up your Google Drive, click on New up here in the top corner. Usually I don't see Jamboard here. I usually have to click on More, and then here's Jamboard. And when I click on Google Jamboard, here it is. It opens up. It looks so simple, and it really is simple. And you're going to see just how easy it is to use. We have all of these tools over here on the left side, and here's what they do. Get ready. It's going to be a whole lot at once. Okay, so the first option is for annotation. Here are all the different colors and styles of annotation that you can use. You can erase. Here's your cursor. You can add sticky notes. They come in different colors. They can turn and be made bigger or smaller. You can add your own pictures, either by uploading them from your device or by copy and pasting. I found this guy right here, this dichotomous key in Google Images, and I just did copy image and Control V with my keyboard and paste it right on in here. You have all these different shapes, solid or hollow shapes, text, of course, with different sizes and colors, and then the laser tool, which just kind of highlights whatever you're pointing to at the time. Google Jamboard is really, really simple. And a lot of times I find teachers aren't using it because it's so simple, they just don't really know what to do with it. So rather than showing you how to use it, because I already did that right here, my next couple of slides are going to be Jamboards that I created this week, just to show you examples of how I have used it with students before. And hopefully you can gather some ideas from that. Oh, also, I forgot, you can change the background. You can pick a different color or lines, grid, or you can upload an image and make the background whatever you want it to be. Okay. So once you do create a Jamboard to share it with your students, it's just like any other item that you create in Google, a Google Doc, a Google Slide, a Google Drawing. You click that share button in the top corner, and then you can type in your student's email if you want to share it that way. Remember, if you do that, they're going to have editing access, which might be what you want. Or you might want to copy the link and give it to them that way. So be very careful. As you know, with Google, you have to be careful with the settings because, like I said, if you give your students the link or add them here, they're probably going to be able to edit. And at times, that is really great. If you want all of your students in there at the same time, all working on the same document together, that's a great thing. But sometimes you just want them to see what you made or have their own copy of what you made. So in that case, I'm going to show you a little Google trick. When you copy that link for your Jamboard, here it is. I pasted it right here. This last part that I made red, delete that. So delete the word edit, everything after it, hit backspace, and then type the word copy. When you do this, and not just for Jamboard, but for Google Doc, Google Slide, any Google item that you create, your viewers are going to be forced to make their own copy of that jam or that doc or that slide or whatever. So if my students copied this web address and put it into their browser, this is what their screen is going to look like. It literally forces them to make a copy. So that might be an option you want to do if you don't want all of your students in the same document at the same time going crazy. Or if you have Schoology or Canvas or a Google Classroom, you can just assign it that way. When you make an assignment in your own learning management system, you can add that jam and just have them do it right in the LMS, which we're not going to get into that because every learning management system is totally different, but you can ask your technology person at your school about that if you need a little help creating a Google type assignment in your LMS. Okay, so here are the examples. You can use Jamboard to solve math problems. So I was hypothetically projecting this on my screen, and all of my students, both students at home and students in my class, were watching me as I was solving 34 times 5. And then I wrote this problem. I put a sticky note and I said, all right, you try this. I'm going to choose one student to show their work. And then I can share, add in the student that I want who wants to share their work and is willing. The student can come in, solve 68 times 7 in real time as all the other students are watching this happen live. I created this sort for the different branches of government. These are all drag and drop. So the students each would get their own copy of this in their LMS, and they have to sort these statements to the correct branches of government. I created this actually, I did not create this plant cell diagram. I found it online. I made it the background of the jam, and then I gave my kids some directions on how they're supposed to label and circle some things on the diagram. This is a really cool one. It's kind of a social emotional check-in that you can have your students do every morning. Each student in the classroom would have their own icon, and they don't have to know who the other students are. They don't have to tell anyone, hey, I'm the avocado. That's their business. They don't need to tell anyone who they are. And in the morning, they can just kind of move their little picture to how they're feeling that morning. And if you're concerned, you can check in with that kiddo during the day. And you can also check in with how they're comprehending their work. Again, you could use the symbols so that you don't have your students' names on here. For this one, I just created the chart and then I had the kids add a sticky note. I said, hey, add a sticky note with your name, put it under the thumb that you're feeling about this lesson that we did today. And then here are some Jamboard resources that you can check out in your own time. My time is up here, but I want to mention one more thing. I'm not going to show you how to use this, but eMedia VA is a really wonderful resource and site run right out of WHRO. It's a huge content library, and we have resources from all of these really, really great providers. And our eMedia VA manager is Lindsay Horner. You can contact her at any time, but she is also going to be doing some webinars in the upcoming weeks. She has one Thursday of this week and Thursday of next week. So I highly recommend signing up for one of those webinars. And you can do that at whro.org/webinar. This computer is also a link to that site, so you can go register there. And remember, I'll be sending this out to you. So if you didn't quite catch that, no worries, you'll get this. All right, last but not least, here's my contact information again. I know I'm past my time, so if you've got to run, go for it. But I'm going to stick around and answer some questions after I turn off the recording. And I also wanted you to know that I'm going to be doing a part 2 1 week from today on February 16th. And you can also register for that webinar at whro.org/webinar. I'm going to be covering 5 different tools that I did not talk about tonight. So, like I said,
Jamie,
yes.
let me interrupt you for just a second.
Yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
gonna, before you start answering questions,
Sure.
I want to share, if I can here, hold on. Let's see if I can share this. No, it's not going.
Let me make you a.
There we go. There we go. I did it. So I've shared a link in the chat area.
Okay.
We are looking at WHRO. We're looking for teachers to serve as content developers for our environmental science course, which will be an online course for students, and we'll offer it to school divisions throughout Virginia for them to use once it's completed. We hire teachers as independent contractors, and we pay them. So if you're interested, or you know someone who might be interested in serving as a content developer, basically a course writer for this environmental science course, please share that information with them. Sorry for the interruption and the advertisement. I'll let you get back to the questions. And there are quite a few of them in the chat as well as the Q&A.
Perfect. No worries. Good. Good to know about the content creators. All right, I'm heading over to the Q&A. Give me 1 second. I think I have to. Sorry, give me 1 moment. My computer is having a moment here where it's not letting me pull up the Q&A. Let's try this.
Would you like for me to read them for you?
Got it. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry about that. All right. Does WordWall allow you to import terms and data from another program? Not that I saw. I don't want to give that a solid no, but as I was creating on WordWall today, I didn't see anywhere that I could pull in things from another program. It looked like I just had to type them all in as I was creating on that website. Let's see. Can you filter the community activities by content? All right, I'm assuming that's also for WordWall because that was towards the beginning. Let's see. Community. So I don't really see any categories here, but there is a search box. So if you know there's something in particular that you're looking for, you could try typing it in the search, although I don't see any categories here. All right. Do the students get into the WordWall assignment through their Google account? Just curious how their names pop up, if we need to set up classes or anything like that. So for WordWall, they needed to, I believe they needed to type in their name when they first started the game. Let me check that out so that I'm not telling you the wrong information, but I'm pretty sure that was the situation. Yep. So right here, you either in your settings choose enter name or anonymous. I had enter name. So to begin the game, I had to type in my name. Or if you are just putting this out there for review or something, you could choose anonymous. That's up to you. So you don't need to create a classroom in there. They type in their name. That's how you know who's playing those games when you're looking at your results. Can you upload pictures in WordWall or is it just words? So all the activities that I clicked on it was only words. So for example, with the whack-a-mole game, like there was, when the kids were playing it, it was the whole graphic with the little moles that popped up, and it really only worked with words. Again, it's new to me, so I don't want to speak for all of the activities. Maybe there are some that are compatible with pictures, but the few that I've checked out just in the past couple of days, I have not seen the ability to upload pictures. EdPuzzle can be an external tool in Canvas, and it will load your classes, at least in my district. Oh, that's awesome. I think, I want to say the last district I worked in, it was an app within Schoology. So it was kind of the same situation. So you might want to check that out with your tech person too when you get back to your schools, see if EdPuzzle or if any of these, you know, mesh even better with your LMS than we're thinking. All right. Is WordWall strictly single player in the free version? I believe so. I don't think it's multiplayer like Quizizz or anything like that. It looks to me like once the students start the game, it's just a single player game. As I was creating that game, I didn't see anywhere that allowed like more than one player at a time. Of course, all of your kids in your class can play the game, but they're just not going to see like each other's scores or a leaderboard or anything like that, like they see with Quizizz. How did you get to other teachers' videos made available in Khan Academy? I can show you that. Okay, EdPuzzle. So in EdPuzzle, I clicked on Khan Academy. I chose a video, and then I just scrolled down. Here are all of the videos that other teachers have added questions to. So these are all two-step word problem, but these teachers have added their own questions, and I can check them out and see. I can see which questions they added, and if I like it, then I can go ahead and use it. For Quizizz, is it better to create the classes for secondary teachers who might use this with 3 different classes? Honestly, in Quizizz, I really don't see the absolute need to create classes in there. The Quizizz reports are pretty great. As a technology specialist, I had, roughly 30 classes that I would use Quizizz with, and I never created their classrooms in Quizizz. I still just gave them the codes to use. But here's what I did do in Quizizz to kind of help myself organize a little bit. Where are you at? There we are. So nonfiction text structures. If I was going to use this with like 3 different classrooms, I made copies of it. And let's see. Yep, here it is. Nonfiction text structures. This little guy is a copy, creating a duplicate, creating another one. All right, so there it is 3 times. So this first one, I'm going to edit that, and I'm going to name it, here we go. Nonfiction text structures, Johnson. Because I was, like I said, I was a tech specialist. So if I was using this version with Johnson's class, I would title it Johnson, or maybe, period 2 or whatever you've got going on. So now later, when I look at my reports here in Quizizz, instead of like 5 different classes results all showing up jammed together in one Quizizz, I have them kind of split up and organized by my classes. So I think that's just kind of personal preference. You might want to play around with creating classes directly in Quizizz so that you don't have to do this. I always kind of just did this though for whatever reason, and they both seem to work out the same in the end. All right. Is there a way to insert graphics as answers? I think that's for Quizizz, that question. And yes. Yeah, for most of them you can. Edit this question. Yeah, right here. If you click on this little mountain picture, add image, then, oh, look, you can have text or an image, but not both. So you can have a text answer or you can have an image answer, but you can't have both. So your answer to that one is yes, you can. As you scroll through the videos in EdPuzzle, is there a way to save the videos you want for future use later without editing or assigning it first? Not sure about the answer to that. Let's take a look. Academy. Well, I was able to put a check mark next to it. Oh, here's copy all. Let's see what that does. Oh, there, look, EdPuzzle copied to your content. So I checked them and then I clicked copy. Oh, my content. Yeah, so there they are. If you check them and click that, there they are in my content, so I can use them for later. Good to know. I didn't know that either, but we just figured it out together. With Remind, do you know when someone has switched it off so they are no longer receiving your messages? And can you set it so that you do not get messages from students at all hours of the night from parents or students? Okay, let's take a look at Remind. Do you know when they have switched it off? This one, messages. Okay, so it looks like when I went to my messages and I clicked on that little arrow on my message, not only does it show me how many people have read it, but it shows me who has read it as well. So I don't exactly know if you can see that they've turned it off, but you would be able to see that they did not receive it or that it was not delivered to them. And maybe their name would even show up down here under error. So that's kind of how you can check. And Remind is an app. Remember, I suggested downloading the app for your phone. So there are a couple of different options. You can, in your phone settings, you can choose to have notifications turned on or off, or only come in at certain times. But I also believe I'd have to look around. I know there used to be office hours in here. Oh, I think it's going to be up here actually. And if you click on your name at the top and then click on account settings, I think it might be in here. Here we go. Yep. You can set some office hours and check out some other options in here as well. Okay. I like to use a picture of an assignment as the background for a Jamboard. Yes, and that's exactly what I did too in this one. I found this plant cell diagram on Google and I just set it as the background so the kids can't like move it around or anything. They could move this stuff around, but that's the background. It's not going anywhere. That's a wonderful idea. That's exactly what I did too. Can you tell me one more time what you pressed to get the check in on the Jamboard again, please? To get the check in on the Jamboard again, please. The check. I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to. If you're talking about my check-in slide, this one, I actually made this. I'll share this with you guys too. Like I'll give you the Jamboard link in my email. I'm writing it down right now so I don't forget. So if you want to steal this, go for it. I don't care. If you want to steal any of these, you can. That's totally fine. I saw a picture of one similar to this and I didn't want to steal it from someone else because it was on a Teachers Pay Teachers thing. So I just made my own. It took me like 5 or 10 minutes to make this. And I made it all in here. So I'll share this with you and you can certainly steal this from me if you want to. Hopefully that's what you were talking about, was that check-in. Hopefully I answered your question. Someone said, whack-a-mole, let me add pictures and words. Oh, perfect. I was wrong. Awesome. You can add pictures in Word Wall. That's a new one to me, so that's good to know. I didn't see the eMedia piece. So eMedia, I didn't spend a lot of time on because one of my coworkers is going to be doing some upcoming webinars on just eMedia VA. So definitely, if you missed that or you're not sure how to use it, go to WHRO.org/webinar and sign up for her webinars. She will do a really great job on explaining that really useful tool for you. Do I have to have a class to use EdPuzzle? Yes, you do have to have a class for EdPuzzle. That is the one tool tonight I showed you that you will need a class. Otherwise, you won't be able to track which of your students answered the questions or how they did. Can I link EdPuzzle and Quizizz to Canvas via link as a standalone product? Absolutely. So when you create an EdPuzzle and you publish it, you can copy the link and you can paste it into your LMS, whether it's Canvas or whatever, and you can post it for your students that way. Absolutely. When making a copy, I had a student say they didn't have access to the Jamboard. Did I do something incorrectly? Let me go to the sharing settings again. All right, so if I was sharing this Jamboard with my students, I would click share in the top right corner. And this is where things get kind of strange, but I have a lot of different options here. If I want, so for example, this one, morning check-in. I do actually want all of my students in this Jamboard all at the same time so that they can come move around their symbol to how they're feeling for the day. I can do this a couple different ways. I can type in their email addresses right here, and they should get an email alert that they've been added to this Jamboard. I could also copy the link, but link copying in Google is a little tricky sometimes too. Right now, I have it set to anyone on the internet with this link can view it. So if I copy this link and I give it to my kids, they're going to be able to see my morning check-in, but they're not going to be able to move anything around on it. You might have to play around with these settings a little bit. Now I have it as only people added can open this link. So I think the best way if you want all of your students in the same time is probably to add them here by email. And then if you want to put it in your LMS, share the link with them. Or like I said, you can also go into your learning management system, say at Schoology, create an assignment, add this Jamboard from your Google Drive to that assignment and go that way. Or if you want to give this to students and you want them to have their own copy of it, but you don't necessarily need to check it ever, you just want to give it to them for them to have for future use of their own, you can copy that, take out edit and everything after, replace it with copy, and now they're going to have to make their own copy of that Jamboard. But again, if you do it this way, you're not going to be able to see any work they do on it. It's just going to be on their own device for future use. Sorry, that's a little confusing. It's just Google has so many different sharing settings, which is a blessing that you have so many options, but also really confusing. Most likely your tech support at your school is probably familiar with Google sharing. You could always contact them for extra support with sharing Google assignments with kids. You could also email me afterwards if you have any more specific questions about Google sharing, and I can try to help you out with it later on too, because I know it's a lot. Google is a lot. Okay. How would I use Jamboard for first graders? Oh, I'm glad you asked. I started creating one today that was like super first grader oriented. And I was like, well, I think these are mostly going to be secondary teachers, so I'll take it out. So basically, what I did was I created something like this, except it was not branches of the government because first graders do not understand that. It was a word sort. So I had like dash AT, dash OT, dash ET. And then at the bottom, I had a bunch of just like your typical word sort that you would do in person with your kids. I had a picture of a cat, and then the kids have to click on the cat and drag it over to this column because that's the AT column. A picture of water for wet. They'd have to drag it to this column for ET, wet. That was literally when I was making Jamboards today. That was the very first thing I thought of was word families. I was actually a first grade teacher before I was a fifth grade teacher. So that's where I started, was with all those word families. And that's a really great way to use Jamboard with your students. You could assign them the Jamboard in your LMS so that they have to do it on their own time and turn it in and you can check it later. Or if you are able to add your student to this Jamboard so that you can both be in it at the same time, you could actually watch your student do it, if you're feeling that advanced. But start slow, start with what you guys know, and then work your way up from there. Okay, that was the Q&A. I'm going to take a look at the chat and see if there's anything in there that was not in the Q&A. Or chat. Okay. A lot of people gave some really great advice in the chat, by the way. So I'm going to be checking out some of the things that you all shared with me in the chat. You have some really great ideas in there. If I assign the Jamboard in my learning management platform and the students make a copy, will I still have access to the Jamboard or will I have to request access? I can speak for Schoology, and I'm sure the others are the same or relatively the same. When I created assignments in Schoology, which included a Google Doc or a Google Slide or a Google Jam, I could still access their copy because it's within the LMS, it's within the assignment that I created. I could see their copy, I could see the work they did on their copy, and I was also able to like make notes on their copy as well. I'm sure the other big LMSs are the same. So the answer is yes, you should be able to have access to what they're doing on their copy of their Google tool. Can I watch your presentation? Yes, absolutely. This will be posted at whro.org/webinar. I'll send that link out to you guys in an email so that you know how to access it. And if you have a multi-page PDF, you can import the pages individually if you're on the mobile device. I'm not sure which app that was referring to. Oh, I think that one was about Jamboard as well, because then they said mobile device gives the option to add a file, not just an image. So that's awesome. You can add a PDF to Jamboard if you're on a different device. Didn't have that option on my computer. My workaround for that though would have just been taking a screenshot of my PDF and saving it as a JPEG and using it that way. But good to know that you can add those on different devices. Can you use Quizizz for printables if you have students that don't have the internet? I want to say that's a yes. I know I've done it in the past. Let me see if I can figure that out while I'm on here. Save. Yep. When I have a quiz open in Quizizz, there is a little print option right here at the top. Good question. Someone said they use Quizizz for review and they let them use the random name generator. Yeah, if you're just using Quizizz for review and you do not have to require your students to type in their name, it will do a random name generator, which they get a kick out of. So I would do that too if we were just using it for an informal review. Good point. I'm almost finished scrolling through. I just want to see if there's any last questions before I head out. Does EdPuzzle have a report feature which tells you which students answered which questions? Yes, it does. If you go into the EdPuzzle reports, I know I didn't spend a ton of time in reports. I had a lot to cover, but you can see what your students answered so that you can assess them and see what they're doing great on and what they need some more help on. What if you want to make your own video? I'm assuming that's for EdPuzzle. And yes, you can absolutely, you can record your own video in there, or you can upload one that's already on your computer. that is an absolute option as well. And you can still add questions to videos that you create in EdPuzzle too. How are the games you create in WordWall saved? So they were just saved right there on my dashboard. Oh, my activities, they'll all show up right here. Remember, you can only have 5 at a time, but you can delete old ones that are not in use anymore. Okay, I think I hit all of the questions. Sorry that took me a minute. If I did happen to miss any of your questions, I apologize, but please send them to me to my email, and I'll make sure that I try to get them answered for you. I don't want to leave anybody out. And at that note, I am going to go ahead and end our webinar. I hope you have a great night. Look for an email from me in the next few days, and I hope to see you at our upcoming webinars in the next couple of weeks. Have a great night and a great rest of your week.